Treat every connection like it matters, because one day you'll realize it did. I learned that lesson years ago from a coworker named Mary Frances, and the memory resurfaced yesterday with surprising clarity. Hi, welcome to my channel. I am your inner light coach, and I'm grateful you've joined me today. Let's step together through stories, rituals, and reflections. Thank you for shining your presence here. Today is Saturday Spark, and this video is about treating every connection like it matters. I was reminiscing yesterday about an old coworker, Mary Frances, and I had the pleasure of working with her when I became a certified nurse's assistant. She was an older lady and she took me under her wing. She showed me practical tips and tricks of the trade when we worked together. The things she taught me lasted for 19 years of working with the elderly, but actually the lessons have lasted with me up until now. So nobody works like Mary Frances anymore. I asked her once, "Why do you take the time to teach me?" She answered, "Because you are teachable. I want the people I work with to do a good job. If I can teach you the things to be able to do that, it makes all of our jobs easier." That was the kindest, most direct, and honest answer I've ever heard from someone. I enjoyed working with Mary Frances, and she made it clear she liked working with me. We had a lot of laughs, and we tackled emergencies with grace. I left the facility to pursue other options. One day, out of the blue, I received a phone call. It was Mary Frances. She called to ask if I would go canoeing with her. I checked my calendar and happened to have the day off, so I said yes. She had only been canoeing once, and this would have been my first time canoeing. So it took us a minute to figure out the paddles and maneuvering the canoe, but once we did it, it was a pretty smooth ride down the river, and we had a lot of fun. We came across one other kayaker on the river, and in working the canoe to try to avoid them, we almost ended up into the bank. We were able to abruptly course correct and at the last minute, and the rest of the trip went pretty smooth. And it was a gorgeous day, a beautiful day to be out on the river. At the end of the trip, there was a man to load the canoe on his truck, and he drove us back to our cars. And Mary Frances asked if I had time to join her at a restaurant, and I did. So we drove our separate cars to the restaurant and met each other inside. We had good meals and chatted. Mary Frances had been pretty discreet about her personal life when we worked together, but here in the restaurant, she opened up to me. She told me about herself. She married an older, well-to-do man. She didn't have to work, but she did to keep from getting bored, and her husband thought it was a good idea too. And at that moment, her husband was nearing the end of his life. Mary Frances was taking care of him and now had hospice helping her. She understood that despite him passing, she was still alive and she could do good things still. So she was making plans to start a business, taking care of elderly in their homes. I told her with excitement, "That is great. That's a perfect business for you." And she humbly thanked me. We finished our meals and she asked me if I wanted an alcoholic beverage. I ordered a beer and drank that, and then another, and then another. And my emotional intelligence flew right out the window. I started telling stupid jokes and talking gossip, and I talked too much. I said things I shouldn't have. I let my character get watered down. Mary Frances paid the bill. We hugged each other and went our separate ways. That was the last time I saw Mary Frances. I can now see why I've reflected on this story in my life. Everything went well until the alcohol entered the story. Now I see that I was on an interview, and up until the beer, I was doing pretty well. That one misstep caused me to miss an opportunity. Now, I don't know if Mary Frances was looking for a business partner or an employee. I messed up by allowing my character to be watered down with alcohol. Looking back, I realized something. I was being evaluated not just for a job, but for trust, for partnership, for possibility, and I wasn't showing up as my best self. So, what this story shows is I was teachable, open, and earnest, and Mary Frances saw that immediately. She valued me enough to reach out outside of work, which is rare and meaningful. We shared a day of adventure, vulnerability, and connection. And yes, at the end, alcohol loosened the boundaries that had been serving me well. But here's the deeper truth. I wasn't being interviewed for a job, I was being invited into someone's inner circle, and that was even more sacred. This insight isn't about my regret, it's about recognizing how easily character can be diluted when we're not mindful of our environment, our emotions, or our choices. And that's powerful. Here's the spark. Be mindful of who you are around. Treat every friendship, every conversation, every shared moment as if you're interviewing for the most important role of your life, because you are. You're interviewing for the role of yourself, the version of you that others can trust, rely on, and invite into their world, not out of perfection, not out of performance, but out of integrity. Because opportunities don't always announce themselves. Sometimes they show up in a canoe, on a river, with someone who believes in you. Thank you for watching. Let's get back to love. God is good. Stay thankful. Love and light to all. Until next time, walk gently and shine brightly.